The car stopped on a quiet road outside Ulm. Two generals stepped out. They walked a short distance away and stood with their backs to the vehicle. The SS driver leaned against the hood and looked at nothing. Inside the car, in the back seat, sat the most famous soldier in Germany. He had 15 minutes. He'd known since breakfast. His wife had known since breakfast. His son, Manfred, 18 years old, had watched his father dress in his full field marshal's uniform with the slow, deliberate movements of a man performing something for the last time. Every decoration the Reich had given him, every medal, every cross, arranged with care on the chest of a man who'd been told over the morning coffee that he had approximately 2 hours to live. What happened inside that car, the Third Reich spent years trying to erase. This is what they erased, and this is why it needs to be said. Erwin Rommel did not die in battle. He was not killed by an Allied bullet, an enemy shell, or any of the 1,000 dangers the Desert War and Normandy had offered him. He survived all of them. He led from the front, took unnecessary risks, and walked away from situations that should have killed him multiple times. He was murdered by the country he had served for 40 years. Quietly, on a quiet road outside his own town, with cyanide capsules delivered by two generals acting on direct orders from the man he had once called his Führer. And then his murder was dressed as a hero's death, given a state funeral and presented to the German people, while the man who ordered the killing stood before the cameras and wept over the coffin. The lie held for years. What broke it open was not a confession. It was loyalty. The loyalty of the people who had been in that house on that October morning and refused, even after everything, to let the erasure stand. Loyalty, the very thing that had condemned him. By the autumn of 1944, Germany was losing the war on every front simultaneously. The Eastern Front was hemorrhaging men faster than any reserve could replace. The Western Front, since the Allied landings in June, had become a fighting retreat. The skies over Germany belonged in daylight almost entirely to Allied aircraft, systematically dismantling what remained of the Reich's industrial capacity. Into this darkness, the German people carried certain names like torches. Rommel was the brightest. He was not, in the public imagination, a Nazi. He was a soldier, the son of a schoolteacher from Württemberg, not an aristocrat, not a Junker, not one of the old Prussian families. He had risen entirely through competence, through the kind of tactical brilliance that reveals itself under pressure when doctrine dissolves and what remains is the raw question of whether the man in command understands how battles actually work. He understood. And Germany, which was running out of things to believe in, believed in Rommel. Hitler understood this too, which is precisely why what happened on October 14th had to happen the way it did. The desert had changed him. 3 years of campaigning in North Africa had given Rommel something more valuable than victories. It had given him clarity. The clarity of a man who has seen war from close enough to understand what it actually is, not the version that propaganda manufactures, not the abstraction that political speeches require. What he saw clearly by the end was that Adolf Hitler was not a military genius. He was a man whose early successes had calcified into a rigidity that was now costing Germany the war. One refused withdrawal at a time, one overruled commander at a time, one catastrophic miscalculation compounded by another until the compounding had become the condition itself. Rommel said this, not publicly, but he said it, to officers he trusted, in conversations he believed were protected by mutual professional understanding. He was wrong about the protection. On July 17, 1944, Allied aircraft attacked his staff car on a road in Normandy. 4 skull fractures, face torn by glass and road surface. He was hospitalised in Germany, recuperating at home in Erlangen, when 3 days later, Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg placed a briefcase bomb under the conference table at Hitler's Wolf's Lair. The explosion nearly killed Hitler. The coup collapsed within hours, and the Gestapo investigation that followed consumed the German officer corps like a fire that had been given enough oxygen and enough time. Names emerged under interrogation, under torture, in the delirious fragments of men who had attempted suicide and failed. One of the names was Rommel. The evidence was thin, reported comments, a meeting with resistance figures, a list written by a civilian plotter that included Rommel's name as a prospective post-Hitler leader, a list Rommel almost certainly never seen. But it was enough, because what mattered to Hitler was not what Rommel had done, it was what Rommel knew.
A man who knows the truth about a losing war is dangerous. A man who knows the truth and is also the most beloved soldier in the country is something the regime cannot afford to put on trial, cannot afford to execute publicly, cannot afford to let speak, not even in a courtroom, not even before a kangaroo tribunal, not even for a single afternoon. Because Rommel on trial, even a trial designed to destroy him, was Rommel with a microphone. So Hitler signed an order that could not say what it actually was. And on the morning of October 14, 1944, 2 generals drove to a house in Herlingen and rang the doorbell. Rommel was given 3 options. Berlin, a trial before a court that had already decided the verdict, his family arrested, his staff tortured. The People's Court, public humiliation, a death sentence delivered by Roland Freisler with the cameras running, his family sent to the camps. Or the road outside, a car, a cyanide capsule, a state funeral, his family left untouched, his reputation preserved, the official story that he had finally succumbed to his wounds from Normandy, delivered to the German people with full ceremonial gravity. Rommel asked for 15 minutes. What happened in those 15 minutes, history holds only in fragments. In the words of his wife, Lucy, in the account of his son, Manfred, in the details that survived because the people who lived them refused in the years after the war to let them disappear. He told them what was happening, quietly, without dramatics, in the same clear, direct manner he had used to brief his officers before every operation. Here is the situation, here are the options, here is the arithmetic requires. He told them he had chosen this because the other options cost too much, not to him, to them. Lucy Rommel would say afterward that he seemed calm, that he held her hands, that the silence in the room had a quality she had never encountered before or since, a silence with weight and texture and the particular density of things that language was not built to carry. Manfred was 18. He stood in the hallway and watched his father put on his cap, pick up his field marshal's baton, walk toward the door. At the door, Rommel turned. Whatever passed between them in that moment was never fully recorded. Some things that pass between fathers and sons at doorways on October mornings do not belong to history. They belong only to the people who were there. He walked to the car. The door closed. 15 minutes later, General Bergdorf telephoned Frau Rommel to inform her that her husband had died of his wounds.
The state funeral was held in Ulm on October 18, 1944. Field Marshal von Rundstedt delivered the eulogy. The flags flew at half-mast. Hitler sent a wreath. Goebbels described it as a loss of incalculable magnitude, a hero falling to the wounds of battle, a soldier whose sacrifice would inspire generations. The Gestapo, meanwhile, cremated Rommel's body to destroy any physical evidence of the actual cause of death. They were thorough, they were professional, they were in this, as in so many things, very good at their work. What they could not cremate was memory. They could not destroy Lucy Rommel's recollection of her husband's hands holding hers. They could not erase Manfred's memory of a doorway and a turned face. They could not silence the officers who had survived and who carried in the post-war years the knowledge of what had actually happened on that road outside Ulm. The lie unravelled almost immediately after the war ended. The testimony accumulated, the documents emerged, and what they revealed was unambiguous. Hitler had ordered the murder of the most beloved soldier in Germany, had wept publicly over his coffin, had given his family the Field Marshal's full pension while threatening them with concentration camps if Rommel chose to die differently. This is what loyalty costs in a totalitarian state. Not disloyalty, loyalty, 40 years of it, faithfully rendered, the kind of service that builds a career and a reputation and a name that the whole country knows. It costs exactly that, because the moment the loyal man arrives through the accumulated evidence of experience at a private conclusion that the regime cannot permit, the loyalty becomes the threat, the reputation becomes the danger, the famous name becomes the reason the killing must be quiet. Rommel knew too much. Not about the conspiracy, about the war, about the man conducting it, about the place it was going and the price it was going to cost. That knowledge, in a regime that required its heroes to believe, was the unforgivable thing. They gave him a cyanide capsule and called it mercy. They gave him a state funeral and called it honour. They gave him a wreath from the man who had signed his death warrant and called it grief. And for a few years, the world believed them. The road outside Ulm looks like any other road now. But somewhere on that road, on a quiet October morning, the most famous soldier in Germany sat alone in a stopped car and made his last calculation. Not about tactics, not about terrain or supply lines or the position of enemy armour, about the two people he had said goodbye to in a hallway 15 minutes earlier. He chose them. In the only way the options permitted, in the only space the regime had left him, he chose them. Some men are destroyed by the causes they serve. Some are destroyed the moment they stop believing in those causes and cannot find a safe way back. And some, the kind that history treats most unjustly, are destroyed simply for knowing the truth. Rommel carried the truth all the way to a stopped car on a quiet road, and the Reich buried it with full military honours and called it something else entirely.